Tuesday on the show, Michael,
yes,
we started getting into a little bit of the conversation about Justin Fields, kind of in jest a bit within the framework of the comeback player of the year market.
That started it, right?
So
I wasn't sure what he was coming back from.
Just being bad.
Just
being bad.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to revisit it, though, because you kind of set Twitter on fire. Not kind of, you did. Like 3 million views and impressions and retweets and quote tweets and all of this stuff, comparing the numbers of Justin Fields and Davis Mills under the guise of how each team's quarterback needs are perceived, especially when it comes to the draft.
Well, I was sitting in here, and, we have all these TV monitors, and I looked up and I saw Femi's guy, Danny O, on Pat McAfee's show, and he was talking about he was appalled, completely appalled, that Houston wouldn't draft a quarterback at number 2. He's appalled by it. He thinks it's disgraceful. And yet it's okay for Chicago not to draft one. And so it made me dig deeper into the numbers. And when you break the numbers down, taking the rushing stats out and just looking comparison player to player and win-loss percentage and throwing, it's the same player. Now, one guy's drafted in the 3rd round, one guy's drafted the 11th pick overall. So there's this discretionary love that's given to the player who's a first rounder, and there's this hate given to the 3rd rounder because he's not any good. And I just think it's wrong. I think both teams need quarterbacks. I think both teams admit they need quarterbacks. I think if Bryce Young were 6'2", Chicago would have picked him and would have not looked back and would have traded out of Justin Fields. Because Chicago, I didn't write anything or put anything on Twitter that Chicago doesn't already know. I think Chicago just felt like, look, there's no sure thing, and we don't have a sure thing. So let's just keep going down this road, build a team, and next year we'll see where we are. But here's the one thing that I think you have to take into strong consideration is the Bears last year, for all his rushing numbers, he fumbled 28 times, 21, all that stuff. The Bears' average being lost was 8.5 points per game, the exact same number as the Indianapolis Colts. In comparison, the Colts threw the ball 35 times a game on average. The Bears only threw it 22. So the Bears know he doesn't throw the ball well. The Bears know this.
Because the Colts late in games are throwing the ball as much as possible to get back into it, and the Bears aren't.
Right. And so now with another year, see, Femi keeps saying another year he's going to develop. Another year of watching him just play running quarterback, to me, could hurt him because teams are going to play him a certain way now. They're going to play him a certain way. Everybody's going to play him a certain way. They're going to say, hey, Justin, throw the ball from the pocket.
Well, to our boy Femi's credit, I will say, he's had a lot of things working against him, and granted, Davis Mills has as well in Houston, but you have to imagine with them trading out of that top overall pick to get some more draft capital, to bring in DJ Moore as a weapon for him, ideally upgrading the offensive line a bit. They are coming off of a season where the Bears had the worst defense in franchise history, that things can turn around a little bit. And we talk about the perception so much in all of this. And what I kind of come back to in my mind is, when we talk about the draft in general, and we talk about how a guy like Josh Allen is potentially going to make Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, if you want to throw him there, a ton of money because he was somebody that was able to turn it around, and he got the accuracy largely corrected. He changed the footwork, and now he's a guy that we talk about going into each season as an MVP candidate.
Right.
You have Jalen Hurts, who's the natural comparison for Justin Fields, who was somebody who was between 20th and 32nd in the league in completion percentage, QBR, and touchdown interception ratio his first 2 years, that in year 3 was able to turn it around to be ranking first and second in all of those categories and come second in the MVP voting to Patrick Mahomes. But again, he's the exception.
Right.
And so I'm not trying to say Justin Fields is going to be that, but I see why people believe in the potential of a guy that they did pick so high in the draft that they think could get there.
As George Costanza says, a lie is only a lie if you believe it. And obviously you want to believe it.
I don't. I'm just playing a little devil's advocate if I can.
Okay, so let's do this.
I am in agreement with you.
And I have great respect for your betting ability. Are you betting the Bears on the over win total?
I am not, no.
Okay, so that tells me everything I need to know. Because all those sites that you just gave me, all those examples, Hurts, even though he won 9 games, people ignore that in his second season and they went to the playoffs. You're still not going to bet the over. If you believed all that, You would bet the over.
So, and what I'm saying is, Michael, I'm not saying that I believe it. I am in lockstep with you and what you think about this.
Right.
I'm just saying I can understand why, from the outside looking in, people want to buy into the potential.
Why isn't the betting market responding to this love that he has on Twitter? This love, because there's a perception, there's Twitter perception, there's reality. And my point is we as bettors can't fall for it, and no one's falling for it. Like, there's idiots out there that actually think he is the best quarterback in the NFC. We've seen that. I think it's Adam Rank. I don't know who the hell this guy is.
That tweet was posted on April 1st, and I thought it was an April Fool's joke.
No, it was posted March 31st.
But it was posted the night before. And so I saw it on April 1st, and I thought it was an April Fool's joke. And
we all did. Who could have thought that? Even Femi doesn't think that. So my point here is, if the needle doesn't move based on that, what's the evidence? Where am I gaining the confidence? And I just think, to me, it's unfair for Davis Mills, who's not good enough, to take all the criticism, and they absolutely have to have one. Meanwhile, the Bears get a pass. I mean, they were horrible. And again, Lamar Jackson takes over the Baltimore Ravens in 2019. They're 4-5. Okay, they're not a good team either. Joe Flacco was a quarterback. The bye week happens. They come back 6-1. They lose to Kansas City in Kansas City. Tyreek Hill makes this incredible play on 3rd and 15 to win the game for him. And he takes them to the playoffs. The quarterback position, when you have somebody of elite ability, just takes over. Brock Purdy, we're not making any excuses for Brock Purdy. He came into the same offense that Trey Lance had and performed at a magnificent level. My point of the column is this: we have to stop talking about where they get drafted and just focus on how they play. And he's not playing well. That's the point. Everybody has a bag load of excuses. Jalen Hurts took his team to the playoffs.
A couple of quotes that I loved, one of which being, the NFL draft system is backward in terms of evaluation. You write, we value a player's draft status more than how he plays. When he doesn't matter where they get picked, it only matters how they play. And I thought that, you said it there, but just that summed it up really, really well, that it all goes back to evaluation. And then to your point about perception is a powerful tool, providing teams with an escape hatch to avoid any criticism. The Texans getting killed for not taking a quarterback, where the Bears are applauded. So make sure you do go check this out, by the way, at vsin.com. When NFL Teams Believe the Lie is the title of this one. And it's just a really interesting read on perception versus reality. Okay, so let's take it a step further. You're a 49er fan. They have not gotten much criticism for the Trey Lance pick. They really haven't. I mean, if they haven't, because they've lucked out with. Right, but they haven't gotten criticism. They haven't been attacked. If that would have been the Cardinals, or if that would have been another team, they would have been attacked. They would have been killed. But because there was such a great love perception around Lance, nobody wants to go kill it. That Lance was one of those Twitter lovers, right? Remember last year, we literally laugh about it, but he had so much love. He's got a community behind him, and that's why the 49ers aren't catching any heat. Most teams that made this trade to get all the way up there and give up all the assets, they would be getting ridiculed even though they won. We would all be saying, could you imagine if they didn't give up all those resources? Well, so in my brain, I think the part, I guess 1B to that conversation would be that they did draft Brock Purdy, and it's basically you just get him too. You get him for a cheaper price. So you gave up all this stuff, but you still ended up getting your guy, so it doesn't matter. Right. And I think it matters how they play. But I do think that there is that when a player is loved, like Odell, there's no criticism on it. There's a perception. And if you have that positivity perception, you can get away with anything. I mean, you could sign J.J. Watt tomorrow, and people would say, oh, that's going to be a great move for the team. Even though J.J.'s retired, he don't want to play anymore. There's perception, there's not reality, and we got to kind of peel that back, especially in the betting market. To go back to that perception, you look at Super Bowl odds. The Texans, 200-1, makes sense. Bears, 50-1. How is that even possible?
Go to vsin.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.